which we did. And obviously I'll put in a plug for my book here, To the Vaulting with Bob, which is all about that journey and starts in Faversham. And that's not the last time I was in Faversham, but it is the last time that I specifically remember being in Faversham. And we came down to pick up the boat, and it was a neap tide. And the boat had just been launched into the creek further down and wouldn't float. And we waited for the high tide to come up. We still couldn't get out of the creek.
Oh dear.
We finally escaped. Now, Alan had spent, I think, at that time, I remember it specifically, that he'd spent about 30 grand working on Undina. I bought Undina lying in Ipswich dock for about £70,000, and over the next 10 years, I spent somewhere approaching £500,000 on that boat. She's up for sale. You can buy her.
£70,000.
Do you want to guess what I've just been offered for her? £70,000. It's the job of restoring and being involved in wooden boats is a labour that involves a great deal of sweat, a great deal of learning curve, an enormous amount of energy, huge amounts of cash, and the reward is in what you do. Yeah. And one of the things that I know that as you stand here and you may say, what's this worth, this work that we're doing in the end on this building? And I'm afraid to tell you that the worth is in what you do. And I've been around Kent and I've met a number of different examples of civics. It's been quite a busy week for those of us involved in the Civic Society. John and I started the week on Monday afternoon, it seems like a century ago, in an all-party parliamentary group in the House of Commons, being addressed by Nick Bowles, the planning minister.
Oh, joy.
And I'm here as the president of Civic Voice, a totally honorary role. All I do is go around and stand there and listen to people and nod and go, well done, a bit like Prince Charles, only without the palaces. And I go around, and we started with what is effectively the role of Civic Voice, which is what we do. Civic Voice is the representative body that represents a lot of different amenity societies. 300 different societies are signed up to Civic Voice. There are 75,000 members. What we're conscious of is that national policy at the moment is a sort of centralised policy. It is trying to drive the economy by seeing development at almost any cost. It doesn't really matter as long as development. And I know from meeting civic societies in Yorkshire, I've been to Leeds, I've been to Addingham, I've been to Bradford, that one of the great stories about amenity societies is that it's a local problem. It's a local issue. It's actually concerned about what's going to happen 100 yards from you and whether that is appropriate. And a policy which says one size fits all, or a national policy, a policy which tears up the planning regulations and says, no, just go for it, is a very difficult policy for local people. And one of the things that we want to do is strengthen what we try to say to national politicians, to say it's not easy for people locally. People are being urged to put neighbourhood plans together, to involve themselves in what they do locally. People in Kent, I've met people who are trying to save buildings in Ramsgate, fascinating buildings. I mean, really beautiful buildings that will need an enormous amount of work, personal involvement and commitment to see through. It can be done. I went on Tuesday evening, I hosted a party at my house because we have finally, after fighting an insurance company, put the last amount of money together to pay for the Hackney Empire, a project that I was involved in and started in about 1991. It cost 25 million to do. It involved money from lotteries. It involved money from Europe. It involved money from a lot of private people. It involved money from Sir Alan Sugar, who gave us 1 million, 1.25 million in the end, and underwrote us for the money. These things are possible to happen. It's hard work. It involves people in actually sort of getting to grips with the nitty-gritty, and it involves you in publicising and talking about your cause, because the community is there to support you, but people will not support you unless they feel that the community is behind you. When I say people, I mean people out there. People like the Western Foundation, who have money to put into this sort of things. European funding that goes to help new industry. These things are available. They're a long, hard, bureaucratic slog to get involved in, but they are there and they will help you. I've also met people who are volunteers doing a much more straightforward and simple thing, much more like what you've done so far with this building. In Margate, we went to see people who are helping a local park. And Ellington Park, what they do there is very little more than very little more, it's a huge job. They've taken over that park. They've revived the fortunes of that park. They pick up the litter in the park. They look after the flower beds in the park. The council, which has less money to deal with this sort of thing, has actually found a relationship with these volunteers. And one of the things that I have to say is I know that I'm coming down and walking into what is already a little bit of a hornet's nest down here about who can be responsible, what does neighbourhood planning mean, who's going to be responsible, who's going to help. The truth is that what's very difficult in the middle of all these turf wars is this is what national policy takes advantage of. To a large extent, it's really important that we all talk to each other. The idea that somehow consultation, talk, discussion of what happens, opening ourselves to realizing that these long journeys are going to happen, and they will be long journeys, but they're best open if we can get it onto public debate, is something that seems to me intrinsically important to the future. It's important to demonstrate, if you like, to members of senior government. I was once, when I started doing restoration, I went on a radio programme with Anne Widdecombe. And we were just talking about restoration. All the other people around the table said, what a great idea, restoration. How lovely to see it, to see the public face of the way this money is being spent by the lottery and so forth. And Anne Widdecombe said, I think it's a terrible idea. I have to tell you, my constituents are not interested in this. They see far too much planning. They have lots of busybodies interfering in what they do and telling them what they should be doing, and they don't want it. And I thought, well, you know, the point is that a lot of MPs get nothing but letters in green ink. They are pestered by people who find that they can't put up their garage and they want to put in plastic windows and they're not allowed to put in plastic windows, and they think of people who are involved in the community, in the area and where it looks, as being busybodies who are interfering and getting in the way of what they want to do. And that is one side that MPs face all the time. As a result, it's really important that we look at what we do, and I'm saying this to Faversham Society, and we had a little bit of a spat about it a little while ago. But I'll say this, it's fun, what we do. It's great to be involved. It's enjoyable to find these things. Although there are burdens that will come with this, it's really important to get people on side, that you tell them and explain to them that being involved is something which has its continuous pluses. Otherwise, what happens to civic societies is they become, and amenity societies and trusts and groups, is they become so convinced of their own work that they leave the rest of the community behind. We can only go forward if we do this together, if we embrace as many people, if we bring as many people in as possible, if we show them the work we're doing, open our doors and let them see what happens. If we go out to people and say, look, this is fun, get involved, help us. If you don't want to be involved, we don't mind. That's fine. But we want you to know what we're doing, and we want you to enjoy yourselves as well. And that, to me, is the essential role that we want to do, because only then can we go forward to Nick Bowles and people like that and the DCMS and say, look, we represent people. We have not 75,000 members, but 150,000 members, or 250,000, or 1 million members, and they don't want things to happen in planning which are just a licensed free-for-all with no controls. Good planning has built this country to be one of a really beautiful country with beautiful green belt, with beautiful town centres. You go to Faversham, and it hasn't happened by accident that Faversham looks like that. It's happened because people have cared about what they've seen. And those things that create a beautiful place and make a destination happen because people understand and use the law to do the right thing. And what we need to do is be vocal about doing that. We're going to be called NIMBYs. In your case, you'll called volunteers, and that's great. A lot of people around here are called interfering busybodies. I veer between being insulted by being called Griff. There's an article in The Guardian apparently yesterday saying, Griff, come on, somebody's got to have these things built in their backyard. But my only response to that is to say, I don't think of it as my backyard, I think of it as my garden. And if I don't look after my garden, who do I expect to do it for me? Yeah. Being involved, doing this, I salute you for getting involved in this work, and I salute you. On the way, there will be compromises and decisions that have to be made in consultation with other people. If you become too much of a fight, you'll find it difficult to raise things. We talk, be together, try and find common ground, because it's that common ground and moving forward that really will help everybody to be as one and to put forward a message to people that being as one is where we want to be. It sounds a little bit utopian, I should say, but it's also maybe utilitarian as well. In the end, it may mean that you get what you want. So I'm only here to say well done, and what a great boat. And I'm sorry that I can't meet Alan. I don't know if he's here, so I should go down. And he's not. Okay. Well, anyway, it's great to be here. It's lovely to be in Faversham, and I've just walked around and thought what a wonderful place, and how lucky you are to live in this great stand.
Thank you
I will
for
be
coming
back.
down.
But my trouble is that one of the things that I find all the time is that, of course, I haven't been to Cornwall or the West Country. They want me to go down there and meet the civic societies down there. And on my holidays, my boat, as it were, is up for sale. So if anybody would like to buy that, then I might be able to come here for my holidays instead of spending all on the boat. But thank you very much, and thank you for having me.